My guest today is Gundry Beck. She is a commercial photographer who 2 years ago decided that she wanted to move to Iceland. She didn't know anyone here and she had never even been to Iceland before. She's gonna tell us about why she wanted to move to Iceland and how it was entering the freelance market. We will talk about how it is being a female in the photography and share some thoughts on why it's still a male-dominant industry. I'm a big fan of Catherine and I learned a thing or two in this podcast. I hope you enjoy it as much as I. Thanks for listening. Welcome to the show and thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, my first question is just gotta be, why Iceland? What is it about it?
So, I have a few different answers to this.
Okay.
So there is the kind of more logical answer of, it's a great place. For me, it has everything. So basically, it's got the beautiful nature to photograph. It's got a good photography and advertising industry. It's got really creative people, good music scene. It's got northern lights, bit of snow. So that's it. It's just got, volcanoes and this kind of beautiful, like volcanic, alive landscape, and it's not too far from home.
All right.
So that's the kind of logical reason, but actually, it was just a gut feeling. It was just a complete gut feeling. I had never been here before.
Really?
Yeah, no, I hadn't, and I'd barely ever met any Icelandic people.
Whoa.
And so I didn't know much about Iceland. And, apart from what you read on the internet. So I just thought, you know what, I just need to go. I was emailing people before I went and I wasn't really getting replies. So I just thought, you know what, I just need to be there and just see what it's like.
Okay.
So I grabbed my backpack and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go for 2 months and going to see what happens. And I mean, worst case scenario, I've had 2 months in Iceland,
Yeah, worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Not bad.
So I got here and I remember getting off the plane and it was about 6 a.m. and I looked around. It was a really cold April day and I was like, what am I doing? I don't know one person in this country. I don't have a job lined up. I don't have a house lined up.
Oh, wow. I see.
What am I doing?
Scary moment.
It was really scary, actually, yeah. So the first 2 months were actually really difficult. I found it really hard to make friends. Things just weren't really flowing. I wasn't really finding work.
What year is this?
This is 2018, so 2.5 years ago.
Oh, just 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I got here and it was really, really tough and I just wasn't sure if Iceland was my place. I knew I really liked it, but I wasn't sure if it was for me. But there was just this gut feeling again where it was like, I just have to give it another go. And, just again, things were just not really working. I wasn't getting, photography jobs. I wasn't, hanging out with many people. And I had this concert booked in Ireland that I was going to go to. So the kind of thing that was my kind of cutoff point where I was like, either I'm going to go home to Ireland, go to this concert for a few days and then come back, or that will be the end of Iceland for me and I'll just figure it out from Ireland. What? So when it came to booking the return flight or not, things were still not going very well here, but there was just something telling me, book the return flight, book the return flight. So I did. And I came back and everything changed within a week. It was insane. So I came back and I went to this like watercolor and beer evening at Loft. Nice. Those were great. And then I kind of asked I went just by myself and I asked these girls, could I sit with them? And they were like, yeah, of course. And then they ended up being like my best friends.
Oh, brilliant.
So, yeah, there's like still my best friends today.
Oh, it's so great.
And so that was one thing. And then the space opened, so then I suddenly this kind of creative co-working space. So I suddenly was meeting all of the like creative photographers, graphic designers, videographers, and just had this place to go in this community suddenly. And then I got 2 huge freelance jobs.
Nice.
And I got a kind of about 70% job working as a content creator for a tour company here.
Sweet.
That all happened in 1 week.
Whoa.
Yeah.
In the same week.
Yeah. So I kind of came back and I was like, okay, yeah, I made the right decision.
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
And then ever since then, I've just, Iceland is home now. I just love it so much.
Great.
Yeah.
It's so great to hear. And talking about your first 2 jobs, how was it? What was your experience working for Icelandic companies?
Okay, so, well, those ones actually weren't for Icelandic companies. They were for a company called Sweet Escape. So they hire photographers to photograph people who are coming into the country. So like kind of tourism.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So that wasn't an Icelandic company. But it was really fun. It was like my first time just kind of going down to Vik, like rented a car, going down to Vik, stay the night, and it was so fun. But my experience working for Icelandic companies, that's a good question.
I mean, did you find it hard to enter the Icelandic freelance market? Was it anything that was like blocking, or, I mean, does the Icelandic market, I mean, I know we speak English a lot.
Yeah, you guys are insanely good at English. It's intimidating.
Oh, wow, all right. Is it, did you find that was the obstacle like the Icelandic speaking, or didn't even matter? Or?
So yes and no. I think learning Icelandic is a really important part for me. Okay. And ég að læra íslensku.
Nailed it.
So I recently did my first shoot through Icelandic. Beginning to end, did a whole shoot in Icelandic. I was so happy.
That's fantastic.
I mean, I was still putting in English words now and again, but I didn't like fully switch. But no, I've done a lot of times where all of the email communication has been in Icelandic, because I'm a real firm believer in like, if you're gonna be in a country and stay in a country, you should learn the language, because I mean, especially for me as an Irish person, I mean, we learn Irish like Gaelic in school, but we don't speak it on a day-to-day basis. Like English is our language. So I'm really passionate about like, I see you guys are so passionate about keeping your language and everything, and rightly so, So I saw the direction that Irish went, and I'm really like, no, we have to, save Icelandic. So for me, I'm just, and also, it's such a huge part of the culture is the language. So yeah, so I am learning it. And I feel like things really shifted when I started to learn it, not because people prefer speaking Icelandic even, it's more when people see that I'm trying, the whole energy shifts.
Yeah, they see that you're trying to like learn Icelandic, and that the attitude changes or switches up.
Definitely, yeah.
All right, interesting.
Definitely, and I've noticed a huge shift when I tell people like, this is home now, like I'm staying here, this is, I'm building a business here, I'm planning to be here long term, planning to buy a house in Hafnarfjörður and get a dog,
The Icelandic dream.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I do see a huge shift whenever I kind of tell that to people as well. So I guess,
Okay, that's good to know that we are actually we can do that. We can switch it up, and
you guys are super welcoming. You really are.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think so. Yeah. And then I think the biggest thing in terms of getting into the industry, because at first it was hard because I just didn't know where to start, but it all kind of snowballs from there. So I joined this association, FKA, Félag Kvenna í Atvinnu.
All right.
So that's a group for women in business.
Yep.
And that just changed everything for me. I met so many people. Whenever I go to the events, I probably speak about like 90% Icelandic, because everyone there is just so encouraging as well. I love it.
Whoa.
So yeah. So that's really helped me kind of understand business here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And to kind of get to know local companies, and and I just love networking and people and meeting people. So so I guess that's how I got into it.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, so back to the first gig for for an Icelandic company. How did it go? Did they reach out to you? Do you reach out to them, and they just was it any different than shooting like back in Ireland? Is there anything?
Okay, I can't compare it to Ireland actually, because I have never been an adult in Ireland. How weird
Really?
is that? Yeah, I left when I was 18. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to England to study photography for 3 years, and then I lived in London for a year, assisting photographers, and then moved to Norway, where I lived for 2.5 years.
Oh wow, how was that?
Amazing. Yeah, I lived in Bergen and then Tromsø.
Oh wow.
So I was working for an advertising agency in Bergen, and and then I was running these kind of Northern Lights photography tours in Tromsø, and then doing like my own personal photography on the side. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but I mean, my heart was in commercial photography. That's what I love. That's what when I was studying, it was like a commercial photography degree. When I was assisting in London, it was on all these like advertising shoots. So then, as much as I loved Tromsø, there wasn't really an advertising industry up there as much.
Okay. So did that like push you into looking into other places? Or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really funny because there wasn't like one day where I woke up and I was like, do you know what, I'm going to go to Iceland? You know, I think it was a really slow
building up
decision. But I remember people telling me, like people from Tromsø telling me like, oh, I've been to Reykjavik. And it's just like a bigger version of Tromsø. And I was like, well, that sounds great. And then
I'm going.
I'm going. But I think it's because even though it's perfect for me because it's a small city, which means I get to know a lot of people, but it's also the capital. So it's where everything happens, you know, in terms of advertising. So, yeah. But I mean, to answer your question, my first Icelandic client would have been the tour company that I was working for. Yeah. And that was really similar to any other company that I've been working with the last few years. So yeah, I think things were very kind of casual, which I like. This kind of it's kind of quite laid back. I find Icelandic companies quite laid back compared to, you know, Norway and England anyway.
Okay. That's kind of the vibe that I've heard about the Icelandic companies, and are more laid back with everything than just being strict on what should be, how it should be, and everything like that. Yeah. So it's great to hear that, to get on a second, like your opinion on it, because as you are entering the freelance market. All right. So let's talk a little bit about your gear.
Okay, cool.
Because I kind of know you want to...
I definitely want to talk about this, yeah.
So tell me about, what was your first camera?
Okay, do you know what? I don't know what my first camera was because I was really young. Yeah. My mom tells me that apparently at one point, I can't remember what age I was, but at one point I just started asking for cameras on every birthday. She was like, but we just got you one. I was like, yeah, I know, but no, sorry, I'm lying. I do remember my first camera. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember walking into the shop and I was with my grandma. I must have been about 10 or 11. Okay. And I remember picking out this like tiny little film camera, just like a point and shoot, you know? And then all throughout my teenage years, I used to like call myself the official photographer at like family gatherings and parties. But my first, I remember showing my portfolio to a photographer, and he was like, it was probably terrible. He was like, you're great, but I think you need to get an actual good camera to move forward. So I remember just saving up all my money, and I bought a Canon 1000D. So that was my first SLR. All right. And I called it LJ after Lara Jade, the fashion photographer. Yeah. Okay.
Did you bring it on a lot of shoots, or did that?
Yeah, I mean, I got it when I was probably 17, I think. So I was just going around shooting whatever I could, getting my friends to dress up and photographing them, and so, and then when I got to university at 18, I still had that camera, but we were able to borrow like a Canon 5D Mark II. So we were just able to go in and borrow that whenever. So I was using that a lot of the time. Yeah, but yeah.
All right. So what was your next camera? At what point did you buy like what can I say, like the next level camera that you
Like
needed for like
yeah.
do a proper shoot or
That was, I switched over to Nikon.
yeah.
So
We'll just beep this out.
this didn't happen.
And cut.
So, well, basically, I was shooting a lot of concerts at the time, and one of my hero concert photographers was also shooting Nikon. So we would be like shooting them together sometimes, and I just loved the colors and everything on his, so I switched to Nikon.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm just joking, but it's a great system.
Yeah. So I switched to Nikon, went up to full frame, was very excited and everything. That was a Nikon D800, and pretty quickly the focus started not becoming so great.
Yeah, going down.
Going a bit downhill.
So
to the point where I had to get it sent off to Sweden to be fixed, and that was about 200,000 kroner to get that fixed. Luckily, insurance covered it.
Oh, okay, that's good.
But yeah, and then less than a year later, it was back again, not focusing properly.
I see.
So yeah, so I'm kind of for the last 3 years, I've been switching between that, and then I have a Fujifilm X-T2 as well, mirrorless, which I do love.
Yep.
But the thing with the Fujifilm was that it felt a little bit strange bringing it on like big commercial jobs because it's such a tiny. It's so I'd always be telling clients like, this is actually a really good camera. Like I swear.
I have to back it up.
Yeah. This is actually a really really great camera, guys.
I promise. I promise.
I'm pro. Yeah. So I was always kind of switching between the two. Until
something changed.
Something changed last week.
Okay, so
and I am now the proud mum of a Canon R5.
Okay, nice.
It is incredible,
right?
It's incredible.
Okay,
like it's absolutely incredible. I just, I didn't even, keep it in my storage the first few days. I would just keep it on my desk just so I could like stare at it. I was going around just photographing like anything, just to use it. Just
to try and feel out and get any excuse to use
to turn it on.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, what lens are you using with it?
So I'm using the 85mm f1.2 Canon RF.
Yes.
It's a game changer. It is incredible.
Yep.
I still can't get over it. I still can't. So yeah, the focus on it is insane. It's absolutely insane. So I shot a video on Monday, a music video. Okay. And it was insane. I was just able to switch because we were shooting in the Nordic Museum, this kind of scent museum. And I was kind of switching between the musician and they have these beautiful like glass jars with plants in them. So I was kind of switching between them, and I was able to just do it on the screen where I could like press the screen where the glass jar is and then press the screen where the musician is, and it would just switch in between the two and pull focus for me so smoothly. It was insane. It was just insane. Yeah,
that's just fantastic to hear.
And so, it just feels good as well. That's the thing. It just feels good in your hands. And that's so important to me.
That's the same thing I tell a lot of people, that it's hold it, try it, and just it feels right. You feel it in your hand if it's the right one or not. It's just something something that you feel. All right. So that you got a great gear. Would you say that, well, maybe the Nikon was holding you back a little bit because of the troubles that we're having, but would you say, comparing like your brand new gear right now to, well, let's say the older version of the Nikon without the autofocus problem, would you say that is the gear does a lot, that it matters a lot, or how would you like first comes the creativity and everything? Or
I think the thing with gear is that when you trust your gear, when you have great gear that you know is going to perform really well, then that means you can just focus on the creativity, you know? So you're not thinking about it. It just becomes another part of you where you're just only thinking about the creativity, but when you're constantly compensating or working with something slow or working with something that you're just getting frustrated at the quality, then it just slows you down. It makes you stressed, so in that way, I think gear is really important.
You need something that you can trust.
Definitely.
That you're gonna bring the A game for you at
exactly.
shoots.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. So I looked at your Instagram and I was going over your photos and checking out. I would say you have a very beautiful and sort of light style going on, like very, very well, beautiful, of course.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, how would you describe your style and what inspires you?
Okay, good question. I actually have a whole mind map, like brainstorm thing at home on my wall.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
For my personal work, it's like all these different directions of like, what do I want the subject to be? What do I want the feeling to be? Colors and so I have a whole thing mapped out. So I mean, I guess in a few words, I mean, my Instagram is very, very, very me. It's very, I'm not trying to fit into any sort of box. It's just me.
Yeah, just doing you.
Yeah, so it's I love pastel colors so much.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in university they asked us to do this brief where it was you have to gather a lot of research and then of stuff you like, and then from other photographers, and then from that you have to create a landscape, a still life, and a portrait, and they all have to have similar style. They all have to work together as a set. And it's so funny looking back on that because that was 8 years ago now.
Oh wow.
And it is pink and blue, minimal, bright. Like, it's so funny to look back because it's exactly,
Okay, you can just point out, that's cat.
Yeah. So I mean, I love anything pastel colored, these pinks and blues, bright, minimal. I really like when my shots are not that busy.
Yeah.
So when there's a lot of negative space and a lot of this kind of
ease the mind or ease the eye a little bit.
A little bit. Someone recently said to me, they were like, "Oh, your work's very pure." And I thought that was really funny because my name actually means pure. So
really?
Yeah, Catherine means pure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I thought that was funny. But so this kind of just this really, really minimal, simple compositions and
All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So the inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think every creative person comes to a point that we meet a block, some kind of. I'm not sure if you have one or have gone through one.
Definitely.
But you have. Yeah. All right. So that's why I want to know a little bit what inspires you, and if you hit a creative block, do you have any tips and tricks about how you would like go through it or?
Okay, interesting. I think looking at other people's work really helps me through a block.
All right.
So I have started to really consciously think about what I'm looking at.
Okay.
So, for instance, in university, it was such a beautiful time where we were given these briefs to write essays about other photographers and research. And I just found that I haven't been doing that recently as much.
Okay.
So a couple of months ago, I really realized that, as much as I love landscape photography and I love looking at it and everything and taking landscape pictures, that's not the direction that I want to go in with my photography as much. What I want to do is people in landscapes. And what I was doing before was having people quite small in the landscape. So it's almost like just telling the story of like the person who's hiking and small person, big landscape, Yep. And then I realized that that's not what I want to be doing. What I want to be doing is more fashion based. And so then I had to really think about it, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start looking at fashion photographers more. And now I just feel so inspired in a way that I haven't, I haven't really felt in a while.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was really, really exciting. So I'm just like dying to go out and shoot. And then of course we're in a lockdown. So
Great times.
I had all these shoots planned, you know, where I was just like, I'm gonna get models and makeup artists and stylists, and I'm gonna get cool clothes, and we're gonna go outside the city, and I'm gonna shoot with this awesome car where it's just like, you know, people models with the car and all this stuff. And now it's like, oh, never mind. It can wait.
Yeah, hopefully it will be over soon. Hopefully.
I hope so.
And I mean, talking about that, how are you adjusting to the situation that goes on here?
So it was really difficult in the beginning. Back in March, all of my work disappeared, everything. So basically I went fully freelance in September 2019.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you. It's been a full year now. It's crazy.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it's been a full year. So I was always doing photography. I mean, I've been doing photography since I graduated 6 years ago, but it was always employed. So I was either like employed at an ad agency or, you know, this kind of thing, or doing commercial stuff on the side of another photography job. So for instance, with the tour company that I was working with, I was like doing a lot of freelance stuff on the side, but not fully. So I went fully freelance, and it was, I knew that I wanted to do this more commercial lifestyle advertising, fashion thing, and music as well. I'm really passionate about music, photography. So I knew that these were my things that I wanted to be doing. But what I fell more into, I was doing some of these things, but what I fell more into was these elopements and weddings, and you know, it was kind of tourists coming, and I was photographing them on their kind of like holiday photos.
I see.
Which I did like doing, but I knew it wasn't the direction that I wanted to go in. So when COVID hit, I had a lot of these things booked for the next few months, and then it all just disappeared because no one was coming to the country anymore. So in a weird way, COVID kind of pushed me into doing exactly what I wanted to be doing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
It was really strange. So because when it happened, I just went into complete survival mode. Like I did not take any time off to process it at all, which I had to then do later on. I switched off my phone for 2 days and just sat for 2 days at home. But yeah, because after a while I realized that, you know, a lot of other people were like actually taking the time to really process this. And I was just like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to keep my business going? You know?
I mean, that's great.
Yeah, but it was tiring.
I bet it was, yeah.
And yeah, so then I started working with local companies, doing a lot more product photography. So products out in nature, people with products out in nature. That kind of thing. And that just got my heart beating in such a good way, you know? So I was just like, this is what I love so much. So yeah, so I started doing a few of those kind of April, May time. I was doing a lot of those. And then in June, I got to do collab. So that was incredible. That was a very, very, very fun time.
Okay.
So that was really fun. And ever since then, it's kind of snowballed, which has been really nice.
Yeah. I've seen you. We've been quite busy, and
it's been really busy, which is great. I'm so
I
lucky.
mean, of course it is. I mean, your work is fantastic.
Thank you.
So, what I want to go into a little bit, it's traveling, because I know you like to travel.
I love to travel.
Have you traveled a lot inside of Iceland? Have you?
Yes. Yeah, I have this map on my phone, like Google Maps, where you have all the spots, the pins.
The pins and stuff.
It's like you can't even see Iceland anymore. It's just pins. Just constantly, like whenever I see someone posting a picture from somewhere cool, or you know, or just like, or if I see something cool, I'll always pin it.
Yeah, open the map, pin.
Yeah, always. And so I still haven't been to everything, which I think is kind of nice because it feels like I still have more to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah. But I mean, last summer I got to take off quite a few that I was really excited about, like Kettling Fjall.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. So that was my first time there. That was really exciting. But I mean, I've done the whole circle, but I haven't done all the highlands. I've only done Kettling Fjall and Landmannalaugar. So I've never been to Thorsmök.
Really?
Yeah, no, never.
Okay, so
yeah, so it's nice to still have that to look forward to.
Yeah, 2021. We hopefully we get to go there.
That's the plan. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, all right. So I saw a picture. Well, because we're talking about traveling. I remember a photo of you in a red dress, I think, in Egypt.
Yeah.
Right?
That was so fun. Yeah.
So I got a little bit searching and checking out the photos from it. It turns out that you're traveling solo, or you were doing some project, right?
Yeah, it was actually my first project as a fully freelancer.
Oh, wow.
So that was a very nice project to have. So basically, I was shooting for a travel company called the Solo Female Traveler Network.
Ah, yeah.
And so basically it's a Facebook group where people can discuss travels and stuff. But they also run meetup tours. So it's for women who like to travel solo, but maybe not to these trickier places. Yeah. So then they do a group tour, but because everyone loves solo traveling, it's very much, you can go do your own thing, and it's, still having the safety of a group, but being able to do your own thing. Yeah. So yeah, it was so funny because I was like in a cafe with my friend, and she just showed me this thing. She's like, they just posted they're looking for this videographer. And I just thought, you know what? Never going to get this, but like I might as well apply,
Good thing you did.
And then they wrote back and they were like, we really love your videos. We want to talk to you on Skype. And then they did, and I got it. And yeah, so moral of the story, always apply. Yeah. Always apply. You never know. Yeah. So that was a really nice, almost like it was such a nice confirmation for me as well, that it's kind of like, okay, this is the right decision to go freelance and to really make a go of this, Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's really great. That's fantastic to hear that. I mean, I think everything is coming up your way, and
I hope so. I mean, it's still a massive roller coaster. I mean, all my work disappeared again in like mid-September with the new lockdown and everything. So everything disappeared again. So it was like, no, not again. But then it all picked up again last week. So it just got like really crazy really fast last week. So
how is it? Like, let's say that somebody is going to listen and is on the verge of going freelance, but there's always like this financial thing that you have to make your own income and everything. Would you say, well, maybe not currently at this situation, maybe, but how would you say that they should like go for it, and well, how would they go about? What should they check before they go into like fully freelance? Okay,
so we're talking just ignoring COVID and just
let's ignore like
in a
COVID
normal time.
Like in normal times. Yeah.
In normal times, I think in normal times, if those ever come back.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, what really worked was building up a freelance thing on the side of a stable job. So it meant that by the time I went freelance, I had enough clients, I had enough experience. Also assisting was a really good step for me. Just coming straight out of university, I just assisted a lot of different photographers, and it means you get to see a lot of different people working, but it also kind of means that you realize how possible it is, so you're working on these huge shoots and in these big teams and everything with these photographers that you have idolized for ages, and you hang out with them, you're like, you're a normal person, so it's kind of you're kind of like, okay, and they're just so, because they've been doing this for 20 years, they're just like, yeah, it's just another, it's just another shoot, it's just another day. And you're just there like, what? This is incredible. And like, so you realize like, this can just be a normal life, just hanging out with that. So I think that's one important thing would be to assist, because I think it means that you see what a studio day is like, and you see what an outdoor shoot day is like and everything, and the kind of, the run up to everything as well, without the pressure of you're the photographer and the client's waiting for you to deliver,
You're getting the experience without
having all the responsibility. Yeah.
All right.
So one thing I would say, I think financially, I think it's definitely good to have savings for sure, especially when something like COVID happens. I am very, very happy that I saved up, or else I would have been in a very difficult situation. But yeah, definitely having that safety net when you're starting, because it also means that you're not just taking any job, you know, because I think that can be something where, I mean, that is sort of what happened to me as well, where I was just taking any job just because I felt like I couldn't say no to anything at that time. But then I realized that was taking away time from me pursuing the things that I really wanted to be doing.
Okay.
So I think when you have more of a safety net, then you're less likely to do that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, totally makes sense.
Yeah. And then also just getting a community around you. So meeting other photographers, other videographers here, that's been such a big help to me. Just navigating the business, knowing, you know, just things about like knowing who I can rent a studio from and where I can rent lights and all these kind of things. And, you know, what happens with your taxes and, you know, knowing that you have to register for VSK once you hit the 2 million mark, you know, these kind of things that, like, you know, even though I learned a lot about taxes and finance systems and industry systems in university, that still doesn't apply to Iceland at all. So
just not at all.
I mean, sort of, but like, not really. I mean, you know, because it's really scary when you come to a new country and everything's in a different language. Yeah. Especially taxes. So yeah. So first thing I did actually was hire an accountant. First thing I did, because yeah. So I was just like, I mean, I like numbers. I don't mind numbers, but I don't want the responsibility of having to figure out numbers, especially in a new country. Yeah. So I think a big thing is knowing when to delegate. Definitely knowing when, to pull people in to help you when you realize your weaknesses. You know, when you and then it means that you have more time to focus on your strengths then.
I find it's really good advice about that, like not take any job, just because it's taking the time away from you that you could actually be spending on another shoot,
definitely,
or improving your skills in some other.
Definitely.
Talking about skills and everything, what do you have a special workflow? Like you get into a certain rhythm, you know what you want to do, you want to start with these type of shoots, then these type of shoots, and maybe let's say you get that one picture that you really want to put into Lightroom and fixate on. Do you have like a rhythm going on, or is it just what you feel on the spot?
I think it's more what I feel on the spot, to be honest. Or maybe it's just so intuitive that it's hard to like look at it from above. Maybe both. Like
I think a mixture of
a bit of both. I mean, in terms of how I would structure my days, you know, at the start of every week, I make a list of everything that needs to get done. And then I'll have like my kind of week 43, and then just a very Norwegian thing to do, I know. But so I'll have like week 43, and then I'll say, you know, all these things. And then whenever I don't get something done that week, I just look at the week before, and then whatever hasn't been ticked off, and then I bring it over. And then I have like a little explanation mark, so how urgent it is, and then a little clock for how much time it will take. And then I number everything 1 to 3. So like 1 will be the most urgent, you know, then 2, then 3. And then with the clock, like 3 would be taking the most time, 1 would be taking the least time. So then it means that I'll look at the list, and then I can scan down. And if something is like 1 and 1, so like really urgent, doesn't take a lot of time. If it's just like a neat, quick email I need to send, that I'll do that first, that kind of thing. Yeah. So that's, I guess, how I structure all the things that I need to be doing.
Fascinating.
And then, in terms of photography, workflow, I mainly use Photoshop. I'm a huge fan of Photoshop. I really, really love editing. I know a lot of photographers I talk to, they're just like, oh, it just takes ages. But your face.
Guilty.
But I am such an editing nerd. Like if I wake up in the morning and I know it's an editing day, I just get so excited.
Awesome.
So I'll usually, I mean, it totally depends on the job and how many deliverables there are. So if there's, you know, say it's from an event, then I'll probably put it into Lightroom and then make all my selects from there. and then maybe do some light color edits on there, depends on the shoot, and then bring it over into Photoshop and do my proper edits, and then export from Lightroom again. That's how I do it.
Okay, so you bring it from Lightroom to Photoshop.
And then once you save it, it just goes back into Lightroom again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, or I use Bridge sometimes as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So if it's, for instance, if it's like the collab, I have a collab right in front of me. That's why I keep thinking about it. So for instance, for the collab shoot, one of the shoots that I did in Snæfellsnes, I think the deliverables was 24 finished images for online use on Instagram. And so I looked at my thousands of pictures in Bridge and then chose the favorites and then brought them into Photoshop and then exported from there. So the Lightroom was not involved at all in. So when I have these jobs where it's like, when I know I want to Photoshop them a lot, then it's
Okay. All right.
When I say Photoshop a lot, I mean a lot of like colors. I'm not like removing people and
adding in some dragons.
Adding in a hand from nowhere. No, I'm not.
I know. Yeah, we get. So
I'm gonna add in a dragon to my next shoot now.
right? Like
why not?
Dragon flying with a collab in his hand and his claws. Okay, so do you get like fixated on certain photos? Do you feel like because I know a lot of us do that we sort of like we don't want to deliver it unless it's like 300% spot. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm such a perfectionist when it comes to photos.
I think that helps, and at the same time that can be like distracting.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, sometimes I'm really guilty of it for Instagram because I am so, I always want everything to fit together on the feed. So I will airdrop it to my phone about 20 times and just make the tiniest adjustment just to make sure it's the right blue, and then I go crazy with myself and I'm like, why am I spending so much time doing this? I mean, yeah. But I mean, I'm definitely one of those people that will have like 24 layers in my Photoshop file. And
I see.
It's one of my favorite things to like unclick everything and then click everything back in again and just see all the progress, it's nice. Like that side of the face needs to be a bit brighter and then this skin tone is a little bit too red and like just all these tiny minute things, and then it just builds up and up and up and up and up to make everything work together. I
mean, it's working for sure, definitely. It's just that I'm just wondering if it's holding you back at any point, or do you feel like, okay, that's enough? I know it's great. Let's just move on.
I think for the client shoots, I think it's really good. I think I have a good flow in that with the client shoots. Oh. It's with the Instagram posts that it's definitely not a good use of my time.
It could be used for something.
Definitely could be used. I mean, I don't think people care as much if it's not the right blue. I care.
I mean, for me personally, I would say that your style has like really it got implemented in my head. I'm not sure for the English word is for it, but when I see a certain colors in the sky, that's a great like cat photo. I mean, that's your like. That's what I'm. I do. I really love pink skies. On the way here, I was like, "Oh, it's so pretty." It comes out great. So, what I like to do to wrap up this show up every time, I would like to ask people about, like, let's say that you're somebody's picking up their first camera tomorrow. What advice can you give them? Any advice? What did you look at, think about, or? So I would say one of the things that really helped me was looking at other photographers. So I think if you're just starting with photography, I think it's really helpful if you look at the greats. So you look at the originals, the kind of like Helmut Newton and Robert Duano and all these kind of things that are so much older, but you just see
where these styles came from, where you kind of just see the original things. And then moving into more, you know, for me, looking at people like Annie Leibovitz and Mario Testino and Lara Jade, like when you're looking at people who are at the top of the game, that's when I really get so excited. And then it starts really influencing your work as well. So I think when you're starting out, to be looking at, you know, even... I mean, I used to go to the university library and just look through photo books all the time, because I think it's something that's, I mean, I definitely don't do it enough anymore. You know, just looking at actual printed books is so inspiring. And there's this photography bookshop in London, I can't remember the name, but I love it so much. And you just go in and just look at all these books, you know, and just, yeah. So I think choosing who you look at definitely really, really helps. If you are wanting to kind of become like a commercial photographer, there's the Association of Photographers. It's this website that's just got a lot of photographers on it. And so that's when I was assisting, that's how I found photographers to assist, was that I went through and would just click on everyone's websites and stuff, because it's really great photographers that are part of this association. So when you look at the list of names there, yeah, that kind of thing. And they do like AOP awards every year as well, which are really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing I want to ask you about being a female in this industry.
Yeah.
So how is it?
So I realized pretty early on that it's a really male-dominated industry. I have this really strong memory of, in university, we had a visiting lecturer, a photographer for Lonely Planet. And I remember her saying, we need more females in this industry. Like, come on, girls, like, you can do it. We need you. And I just remember that was the moment that I realized, you know, I wasn't even in the industry yet. And that's the moment I realized, like, wow, there's a lot of male photographers. And then I started looking at every photographer I'd been researching and everything, and a lot of them were males. And then when I started assisting, I realized it was a lot of males as well and everything. And then, you know, and I didn't really think about it that much. I just kind of, you know, was doing my own thing, just taking photos and building up my experience and everything. And then when I got to Iceland, that's when I started really learning about it. And because, I mean, it's such a country that's so focused on equality, you know, about the women's day off, the women's strike, things like that. So I've been learning so much about equal rights the last few years. And it's really, really opened my eyes. And I've had a few kind of strange experiences where one of them that really stands out to me, before the R5 was announced, I was thinking, I was in the market for a new camera, and I was looking at some other ones, and I was looking at all the specs and everything. And, you know, and I was kind of like, okay, you know, I can see myself with either of these. But I mean, as we mentioned earlier, it's so much about how it feels in your hands. So I go into this camera shop in London when I was there, and I went in and I was like, oh yeah, you know, I have, he was asking me, what do you have already? And I was saying, okay, well, you know, at the moment I have my Nikon D800, which is, you know, good as full frame and everything. And then I have my Fujifilm X-T2, which I just love using a lot more because the technology is great. I love mirrorless, you know, that kind of thing. So I was basically saying, you know, if these two cameras could merge together and become one, then that would be perfect. Because, that's what I said. I said, because the Fujifilm is not good enough for me to take on my jobs. So then the guy was, I don't know, I guess he was feeling lazy or something. So he kind of passes me along to his colleague.
Really?
So he gets his colleague along and he starts introducing me. And she was like, yeah, he was like, this girl is looking for a new camera. She's got a Nikon D800 and a Fujifilm X-T2, but the X-T2 isn't big enough or good enough for her wedding jobs. And I got so angry. I was just like, commercial jobs. I do commercial jobs. And you know, because the thing is, yes, I do weddings and I do enjoy doing weddings now and again. But that's not what I do. Yeah. You know, that's not my direction. And it just made me so angry that someone assumed that because I'm a female, because I'm like this young female, that I'm a wedding photographer. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with wedding photography. I think it's a really, really amazing industry. And I think, you know, it's such a high pressure industry and I really admire wedding photographers. Yeah. But that's not all I do.
Definitely not.
So it just really, it hurt to hear somebody assume, this like older male, you know, just assume that, oh, she must be a wedding photographer because she's that gender, you know? Yeah. And I was just put in this box. So I actually ended up saying it to the guy who then served me, who was awesome. And he clearly saw that I was a bit frustrated. So anytime he was showing me a camera, he was like, yeah, so this one has these and these specs, you know, for your commercial jobs. So I said it to him at the end and I was like, you know, I would just as a customer, like I would really appreciate it if and I know you haven't done anything wrong, you've been amazing, but your colleague assuming that I was a wedding photographer was not okay. Definitely not. So that was one that really stood out in my mind, where I was just getting put in this box.
Yeah, that is not all right.
No, it's not. And you know, and it's just being surrounded by male photographers all the time, and I'm always like, you know, worried that people aren't going to take me seriously because I'm a young, tiny female, you know, and I kind of get this whole imposter syndrome sometimes where it's like, oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. That's something I've had to work really, really hard on. Yeah. Because it's just, you know, it's kind of like, well, why would they hire me when they can hire this guy who's clearly like...
Well, have you looked at your work?
Thank you. But no, I've had to work really hard on it because, it was really scary going into these big meetings and, you know, trying to explain why someone should hire me when I was kind of like, in my head, it was kind of like, oh, but it could go to this, you know, experienced male photographer. It was really scary. So when I started realizing that I was thinking that's when I could really start pushing back on it and being like, no, why don't I deserve this job just because of my gender, you know? And I remember meeting this street photographer in London at this National Geographic workshop, which was incredible. Nice. So yeah, if you ever get the opportunity to go to like National Geographic or any of these kind of like photo workshops or like photo classes and stuff, I mean, it was just last February. Like, I just think there's always more to learn. For sure. Yeah, no matter where you are in your career, there's always more to learn. Yeah. So going to these kind of things, being surrounded by other photographers and having all these conversations. But anyway, so there was this female street photographer there and I asked her, how do you feel about being a photographer and a female photographer in such a male dominated industry? And her face just lit up and she was like, it excites me so much. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And she's like, yeah, because I can prove them wrong. You know, I can prove. I have the chance to prove. And, you know, and I was even, and that kind of shifted a thing in me. And then I had this conversation a little while ago because I think it's really important with anything that you're doing in life, whether you're a photographer or anything, to look at your why. Like, why am I doing this? Yeah. Because, you know, at some point I was like, well, you know, maybe I'm in a really like selfish career where I'm just taking photos, you know, I'm not a doctor, I'm not saving people's lives, you know. And then I had to really dig deep and be like, no, what I do is I help entrepreneurs who have dreams to build those dreams, to have imagery that helps them promote their products or services, which helps them build their business. And that's what I'm all about. I love entrepreneurship. I love innovation. So being able to help people do that, that's my why. But sometimes I forget that and then I have to really like remember. So I was saying it the other day to one of my friends where I was just like, you know, I'm wondering like, you know, am I helping people in my job? And before I remembered that side of it, my friend's eyes just went really wide and she was like, Kat, the very fact that you're being a female photographer, that you're able to fully live financially off your photography and your videography, that's inspiring people. That is helping people, you know? And it was such a nice thing to hear because you know, I remember when I was 16 finding Lara Jade. I've talked about her so much. So obsessed with her. So finding Lara Jade and seeing her become this like really, really successful photographer, seeing that was like, well, I can do that too, you know? So if I can ever in like, you know, 20 years time, if I can ever be to someone what Lara Jade was to me when I was 16, that's my job done, you know? So just being able to use my abilities to inspire others, that's like 100% my goal.
That is something that I haven't even thought about.
Me neither, until my friend said it. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. That'll be nice.
Can you imagine, like, I mean, I think you will definitely be at that place that in, let's say, 10, 20 years or something like that, people will be reading about you and checking your workflow. And like, people are already looking up to you. But I mean, like, in the future, you'll be more like, how do I put it? It's like you become a legend, if you know what I mean.
That
like
would be awesome. That would be awesome. But yeah, but that's the thing, you know, that I think that's the thing about just being a female in this industry. Like there are times, and there's, you know, there were even times where a photographer was hiring an assistant and he specified that he was looking for a male assistant, and it just made me so angry, where I was like, why though? And he was like, oh, because, you know, you'd be carrying equipment and you know, it's really expensive equipment, so we need someone who can carry it. And you know, and I used to, like, when I was in London just starting out, I would, you know, make a point of carrying the most heavy bags, because I was like, I can do what a boy can do. And you know, and then at the end of the day my back would be like killing me, but I'd be like, but I did it. And you know, so it's kind of, yeah, there are times, and I think, you know, I went through a lot of my life just kind of ignoring it and doing it anyway, but I think really honing in and being like, you know what, I am a minority in this industry, but just leaning into that, realizing it, and being like, you know, I don't want to be the exception. I want to be in it. Yeah. You know, I want this to be the new normal. Because I mean, there's so many girls studying photography. So why is it such a male dominated industry when, I mean, my class in university was like 66 people and only about 12 of those were guys. So, you know, so many females study photography, but there's not as many females doing it. So where at what point do these females lose, you know, do they lose their confidence? Do they just choose another path? Like, you know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah. That's a really good question. I would definitely like to know where's the switch? What happens? Yeah. Why isn't there like more? Yeah. Like for sure.
I know. It's really sad. Yeah. It's really sad. I think there's so many people who study photography who don't pursue it. You know, and I mean, some of them use it to go into something else, photography related or something, but, you know, yeah, why do so many females study it and then not pursue it? Yeah. And I think, I mean, for me, there's never been a point in my life where I, you know, since I was 16, I went to like go intern in a studio for a week when I was 16. And ever since then, it's been like tunnel vision. But, you know, so I've never, you know, I think for about 3 days, I doubted whether I could do it or not. When I first got to Iceland. Oh, yeah. When I was going through that really hard time. Yeah. But apart from that, I've always just been like, no, I have, like, of course I'm going to do this. You know, there's nothing else I want to, you know, do as much in life. But it has been really hard. There have been really hard times. There have been times where no jobs have come for like 2 months. And I'm, you know, it's not so much about the financial, but it's more about your purpose. It's more about like when you're not working on projects, you feel a bit useless. Yeah. So it's pushing through that and pushing through all the rejections. I mean, there have been so many times where, you know, I thought I had a project in the bag and then it falls through. Or, you know, there have been times where I would deliver the photos to a client and I'd be so happy with them. And then they'd be like, oh, maybe, your photos were great, but I'm not too sure about this direction for these. And it would just crush me, to the point where like I can't even read the part that says your photos were great, It's like, even though they can say it a million times, but if they say one bad thing, that's the thing that I focus on. There are times when
that's the curious thing. I mean, let's say you have a string of like 500 great shoots and everything is perfect, but this is one company or people or anything that says like, I mean, it's great, but that sticks in your mind.
Completely.
I mean, that is something that shouldn't stick in your mind. That is something that you should just, maybe talk to a client, maybe do a reshoot if they have to, if they want to, or you can just think they have a different, not style, maybe style or something else.
Yeah, or they just had a different vision.
Yeah, I mean, photography is like really, it's art-based, I feel like.
Yeah, it's kind of creative, Yeah,
so, I mean, I hate that people that are doing really well in this industry are being stuck on one lousy.
It is so hard. But I think that's, and that point, I'm always given this choice of like, do I lean into the sadness and give up and just go get a normal job? Or do I push through, cry it out for a bit, feel it, and then move on, And I think maybe that's why people don't continue, is when they get those downtimes and they
get stuck in,
and then they choose the other path of going down a more like stable life, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody has the same taste, if you want, or style, taste, but I mean, and that kind of what makes photography great. Can you imagine if everyone had the same taste,
the same,
had the same photo, everywhere? So I mean, definitely something that we just like move on.
Yeah, definitely. There was this time, probably about 7 months after I'd moved to Iceland, where a lot of projects fell through at once. A lot of things fell through at once, and then so I was already a bit fragile. And then there was this drinks company, the Swedish drinks company, and I'd reached out to them and they seemed really great and everything, and so they sent me a bunch of their products and they were like, we want you to shoot these, we'll pay you like per photo that we choose.
What?
Which I would never recommend to anyone doing as a price plan. I have learned my lesson now. Doing the work in hopes that they will choose and buy some of the photos is not a good plan. So I agreed to this pricing plan and I worked so hard. I went like up north for 2 days. I went down to Vik. I got some friends involved and took photos of them with these drinks bottles and everything, and I was so proud of the images, because that's when it's hardest, is when, if you were already a little bit like, I could have done better, and then somebody else doesn't like it, then you kind of are like, I know I could have done better. But when you're like 100% really proud of these images, then it hurts. So basically they'd sent me this mood board and they were like, we want the images to fit this mood board. But then in the meantime, when I was shooting, I think someone from their company had just come here on a vacation and had brought their camera and a few bottles. So I think they'd already gotten the shots they needed from Iceland. And when I sent them my shots, they were like, no, they don't really fit what we wanted to do. We wanted them to more look like this, this photographer, this guy from our company just came and took some pictures in Iceland. Like, we wanted them to look a bit more like this. What? So the photos that they sent me of the guy that had just taken these photos looked nothing like the mood board. Nothing like the mood board. So whereas my photos looked like the mood board they'd sent me, so I got so upset, and they were like, we're not going to buy any of your photos. Yeah, we're not going to buy their product. Yeah. And I just remember being crushed, because I was like, I've done so much work on this and I'm getting nothing for it. And it just broke me. And because I'd already lost quite a few projects and, you know, just, I mean, things go up and down, you know, like
definitely.
For no personal reason at all. It's nothing to do with me as a photographer, but just they didn't have the budget anymore. Something fell through. But it, you know, it was just this thing of like so many things fell apart at once. And then that one thing just cracked me. And I remember just being so worried about the future. So kind of like, I don't know. And then I met this guy who became a really good friend of mine, Dan Rubin. He's a really, really awesome photographer. And he was visiting Iceland. And we ended up grabbing some food and I opened up about this, what had just happened and that I was a bit sad. And he just gave me the best advice. He said, as a photographer, you're going to get bummed out at least once a year. And when you do, that means you're still passionate. Because when something bad happens and you feel it and your heart breaks a little bit, that means you've still got your fire. So, you know, it means you still care.
So much sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just was like, okay, yeah, I've still got my fire. I can do this.
Oh,
you know, so now whenever, he's a genius. He's an absolute genius. And he's top of his game as well. Just travels all around the world and takes awesome photos for companies. So here, just hearing that changed my perspective completely.
Great to hear.
Yeah. So if anything ever happens and you're really bummed out about it, that's a good thing. Yeah. Feel it. I mean, let yourself feel it. Don't like push it down. Feel it and then move on. Yeah,
like go through it and take you like the advice, you're taking the negative and making it positive.
Yeah.
That's a really smart thing to do. And we're talking about the male dominance in the industry. How do you feel about it in Iceland? Is there more or less, or is it? Do you feel like you were talking about the guy in the camera shop? Do you experience this type of attitude here in Iceland, or is it
definitely not in the camera shops? Camera shops here are awesome. No, but so I mean here I felt really, you know, I felt like I was meeting a lot of photographers and, you know, getting this huge network together and everything. And I wasn't really thinking about it because it was just, you know, everyone was just shooting and having fun and everything. And then I organized this photographers gathering last Christmas and we had about 30 photographers in the room. And that's when I realized, you know, that's when I realized there was about 30 photographers there. And about 3 of them were female.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, yeah, that really hit home for me. It really, really hit home then. And, you know, I have been meeting a lot more females recently. But yeah. Hello, camera. Beeping away.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are definitely less female photographers here than male. But I do feel like the female photographers here are very strong and very confident and very like, you know, go get 'em type attitude. Yeah. So I think that's really great. And I think it's really inspiring to be around that as well.
Fantastic to hear.
Yeah. So it's definitely going in the right direction for sure.
Awesome. It's so great that we can enter this topic because I was really curious about it.
Yeah, it's something I'm very, very passionate about. And I was just, you know, I want other people to know that it's possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. I mean, fantastic. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you so much. Takk fyrir.
Before I let you go, where can we find your work?
So my website is gundrybeck.com, but that's really long. So my Instagram is @CatGBeck, CatGbeck.
All right. So if I manage to film this, I'm going to put a link, but otherwise you can, look it up. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Takk fyrir.